4, 3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, we're live! Yes, on this lovely Friday afternoon, and we're going to look at this Prelude and Fugue in C sharp minor by Johann Sebastian Bach from the Volume 2. The Volume 1 Prelude and Fugue is just as freaking awesome. But today we're looking at the Volume 2, which is just so beautiful. So here we go. Here's the Prelude. Prelude. Isn't that fantastic? It reminds me of some of these cantatas, actually, by Bach. It's so incredible. So, yeah, why don't we just play the fugue and we'll talk about it a little bit, because that's fun. So here comes the fugue, 3-voice fugue. Okay, yeah, let's talk about it a little while we're here. So, hi Vladimir. Hi everyone who's joined this impromptu live stream. Just playing some Bach. Couldn't help it. Had to go live. So, yeah. Okay, here's something. Let's talk about the length of the notes in Bach. I think that's really something that if you pay attention to, not only, of course, obviously, when you play the note, but when you release the note as well, that's a very defined thing. I think you can bring this music to a whole other level of satisfaction, both for you playing it and for anyone who's listening to it. So here's an example. Let's take this prelude. Let's look at the left hand. We have eighth notes on the top and quarter notes on the bottom with quarter note rests. So to get that kind of mathematical perfection in Bach's music, let's get those quarter note bass notes to end exactly where they should. So on the second and fourth beats. So this is such a subtle difference. See, if we do that, we get this. If we don't do it, see, now I'm letting those bass notes drag on for a little too long, maybe taking them off on the last eighth note just before the next bass. It's not as satisfying as we can look at this sort of thing all over the place, okay? Now, I think some people do something like this. Don't overdo it. In this case, I think Bach is really just thinking about this. And while it looks like it's in two voices, it is. It's just a pedal effect. It's a note that's being held. You have this all over the place. You'll find that even in Goldberg variations. Look at the theme of the Goldberg variations, and Bach is sniping out certain notes that he wants you to hold to give a pedal effect, while writing in a period when pedal didn't exist. Okay, so these pieces were written for harpsichord. We weren't even able to have just put a pedal down and get this effect. But now we said we don't want that bass note going on, so we got to take it off anyway. So this note has to be held. So just make it smooth. There's something, I think, maybe it's personal, but this piece feels very spiritual to me. There's something like there's always this fervency in Bach's music. Right, so now I'm not holding this note. Sounds like some preludes from cantatas. And if you haven't listened to cantatas, definitely check them out. I could say honestly that cantatas is probably, by Bach, my favorite music of all time. There are a lot of them, and they're all great. So yeah, that's something to look at. Of course, I don't know if I need to even mention that, but of course this should be as steady in the rhythm as possible. We want a super steady rhythm. There's no question to it. Whoops. Keep this mic here. So maybe you need to look at it with a metronome a little bit. There's a few spots where it obviously goes down, right? Where it's clear how we want to shape this. So let's keep going through it. Like this part here, bar 7. This is a place where normally you would think, just play louder, We've had this stuff. much nicer if you just keep this quiet thing that's just, it's just flowing. It has a direction, and it's not getting too, the water is relatively still. There's not such big waves on it. It just keeps going on. You have a lot of overtures and preludes like this. I guess they're overtures in the cantatas, right? So, actually, you know what it makes me think of? Zadok the priest. Listen to Handel coronation anthems. You have these, in the beginning, there's an introduction with the orchestra, and the harmonies keep changing, kind of like this, modulate through different keys. I'm trying to remember how it even goes. And it just stays still until we get to the end of it. It builds up, there's a crescendo, and then wham, the choir enters in, I can't say how many voices. It's not 4 voices. It's at least 6 or 7 voices, right? So the altos and tenors are split with baritones and maybe sopranos as well. I can't remember which ones. But the choir comes in and it's like double F, right? And all while in the beginning, we just had this thing going on with modulations, but it's been very still until we got to the end. So very much like this. I never thought of that until now, but Zadok the priest and this thing is so similar. I have it right here. I'm just gonna pull it out while we're talking about it. I'm like looking at it on the shelf. Can't remember how it goes. Oh yeah. Look how similar this is. Different key, but we're not louder yet. We're wondering where this is going. So beautiful. Isn't that incredible harmonies, incredible modulations? The harmonies are not excessively rich. They're actually quite simple. But the progression that we're going through is, in this style of writing, very Baroque-like, homogeneous. Just like, it starts that way and it just keeps going on. Same thing, all the preludes by Bach. Homogeneous texture. Figuration remains the same from beginning to end. Okay, I'm sorry, I totally interrupted this Zadok the priest here, but so up to here we stay quiet. Now maybe crescendo. Yeah, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 voices, right? Only the tenors are on the same line there together. And there you have it, you know? So that's just the introduction before the choir comes in. It really makes me think about this. These have something really in common. So you keep it quiet in this similar way. It's moving around harmonically. Keep it quiet. Maybe sometimes a little bit more, but you never change the mood here. Now we have the strangest harmony, one of the strangest harmonies I've ever seen Bach write. strange chord. Very strange. All right, so maybe you shape it a little bit at this point. So, you know, we could have some slight waves without getting out of this mood here. Shaping down to here. Here's our F sharp. Very quiet here. Sometimes bringing out the left hand. Now here's our next spot. This one here also. We want to land here quietly, because then we got 4 bars left and we're going to crescendo. Okay, so then we have that. Yeah, I think that, you know, more or less covers it. Play around with articulation. You know, I don't want to talk about everything. We'll be here for 5 hours, but just kidding. We'll talk about it a little bit here. So, hi, Hacked Fox. Hey, Bill. Eden, Kadinsky, Gavrin, Mahaffrey, Tom. Good to see you guys here. Let's see what we have here. Did you change the schedule? I've not seen you in a while. No, I didn't change the schedule. But well, I changed the schedule. I just stopped doing the live scheduled streams. So now they're kind of impromptu. Yes, I agree, Gavin says. I've had quite an interesting experience playing the 48 Prelude and Fugues using the organ sound on my keyboard. Yeah, great. That's the really fun thing to do if you have a keyboard with an organ sound. The individual voices stand out clearly on the organ sound. Gave me some new ideas. Absolutely. We're going to look at this in the fugue, even in the end of this prelude as well. What we have over and over and over in Bach is notes that are held, creating a suspension on the following chord. So, like, for example, when we have this E, E sharp, belongs to C sharp 7. But then we keep it when we get to F sharp major. So we get F sharp major 7. Again here. And now the E here becomes a 7th. But see, Bach, he doesn't repeat these notes. So he could have written, you know, he doesn't do this. Right? He doesn't do that. But with an organ sound, since the sound isn't dying down, it sustains completely, then you hear those dissonants better. So that could definitely give you some different ideas. Does the piano reduction incorporate some parts of the choir voices? No, it doesn't. As a pianist, accompanist, it's kind of, you know, if you want and you can, then you can kind of make your own arrangement of the parts that are there. But, you know, this thing is kind of excessive. You have an orchestra part and 7-voice choir. So, yeah, it depends on the score, but not this one. So, okay, yes, articulation is what we were talking about here. Experiment with it. Da, ti, ti, da, 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 versus da, da, dee, da, da, da. Right? Now that crescendo, usually everyone slows down here. Somehow it just doesn't really make sense to me to slow that figuration down. It's, you know, so maybe keep the tempo. Consider that, okay? Consider that. It doesn't necessarily have to slow down. You could just maintain that thing and then paf, da 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 dum. Kind of funny fingering, but it works. So those two bars, shape down, come back down. That's it. And then pay attention. All of Bach's music, all the time. Pay attention. Every time a note is tied to especially a following bar, look at the dissonance that it's creating. Make sure you're holding that note. Number one mistake every student is going to make with Bach is not hold those notes. The music loses all of its richness and all of its magic, really. So, yeah. So here, you know, we have this all over the place. So you hold the C sharp. It's that F. The F here, creating a dissonance here. Okay, the fugue. Let's look at the fugue. Coming back to the length of the notes. This is what I want to talk to you guys about in this fugue this morning. Hi, John. Good morning. So much better not to slow down. Better contrast. Yeah, isn't it? It's more in the Baroque style. Maybe take a little second to place the chord on bar 25. You see how, you know, you could experiment with that, delaying it a tiny little fraction of a second if it feels right. Okay, so this fugue. You know, this amazing thing about Bach's music is you could play it in so many different tempos. You could play this slower than I played it. You could play it way faster, and it still sounds good, right? What's Bach's ultimate writing goal in writing all these pieces? That's a good question. I mean, why is Bach writing music? I suppose, you know, Bach is on a mission. He's unbelievably skilled at doing this. It's interesting that Bach didn't really create anything new. Everything he did, fugues, cantatas, whatever he did was already being done. He just took all those things to another level, to a level that they had never been taken before. So, and he certainly did write a lot of music. You know, I suppose Bach was just a man living a purpose. And imagine, I have not been to this cathedral in Leipzig, but I would love to visit that. It's on my bucket list. Just incredible, you know, to imagine going to a mass, and this guy is the music director, Johann Sebastian Bach, and he's writing a different mass or cantata. I don't know how often, you know, like sometimes maybe every week or every month, but that's really something. Obviously, Bach is a very religious person. Maybe that's something you have to take into account also if you want to understand why he's doing what he's doing. You sense that from his music. There's a fervency to it. So yeah, that's something to think about for Bach. Okay, back to the technical now. Back to the technical. So we have these theme here in the fugue. This is the subject of the fugue. That's pretty much the subject, is right? Now, let's look at this. Every time you have bum, 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 these ones separated. And now these eighth notes, we have eighth note, rest. Eighth note, rest. Full eighth note, the full length of the eighth note. So that means that these three notes are actually shorter than these two, right? We have that's going to apply everywhere. So same thing in the right hand here. This is not easy, okay? If you look at this, I started looking at this week, and I would play it extremely, extremely, extremely slow, and I was still missing some of them, and I'm still missing some of them now, but most of them are there. That means that sometimes I would hold an eighth note for longer than exactly an eighth note. Whenever you have that eighth note rest, you have this everywhere in this fugue. Or maybe I would cut it a little short, you know? So listen, if we do it, let's do it the wrong way, okay? See how we can't follow the subject? We don't hear this T off. Off, yon, off, on, off, yon. Right? And then you can experiment with the articulation. I like to do stuff like that. I just like that kind of texture here. Okay. Same thing. On, off, even these little things. It's tricky. Notice how this is subtle, guys. If you can hear it, bravo. The eighth notes are exactly the correct length. That's giving this effect here. We're taking this fugue to a whole other level by doing this. All right, bass, middle voice, soprano. Okay, here we have this voice here. Sorry, E sharp, A sharp, G sharp. Then we have F, E, A, F, A, D. So don't forget that. We have that T, da, da, T. One of our first suspensions here. We've had a couple. Now we have a stret. A stret, that means the usually principal motif, but can be any motif, comes in succession in one voice after the other, overlapping. So we have it 4 times actually. Another stretch here. Yum, off, yum, off. Yeah, notice here also we have that theme that was in eighth notes, sometimes in 16th notes, and later on even in quarter notes. Okay, bar 16. I'll give you my personal ideas. This is how I like to play this fugue. I like to start to really sing that right hand soprano line when we get this here. just think this is the most beautiful thing ever. So, okay. Yeah, this is how I play it. I keep those notes short, and then when I get here, I like to do a full legato with more pedal. So I really love in Bach's music, if you can really respect the style, make it sound really Baroque, not broke, then you can take that liberty sometimes to change the texture in a certain section, add a little pedal, and make something really a different kind of texture, kind of organ-like in that sense. So, I think one of the reasons I love this is my two favorite chords in the world is a dominant 7th chord in its 3rd inversion, and then usually a tonic major chord in its 1st inversion. Very simple, I know. That's what really does it for me. So that sort of thing. Now here, go shape towards the F. All that stuff in the left hand. Again, those notes that are held, be vigilant with it. Do not let yourself release a note that was held here earlier than it's supposed to. And watch very closely what you're doing in case you're doing it without realizing it. We have that major 2nd here, and then you hold the A, and then we have D, G. Make sure you've held that F. So, this is usually how I'll teach this. Let's say a student is not going to hold the F when we get this F sharp in the bass, and then they'll lift it here. Okay? That means, if you did that, I don't know if you'll hear the difference. There's something wrong about that. Yeah, it sounds beautiful because there's so much going on. But it means you did not hear this. This is not in your ear. This. Right? You just hear this. But so those little details make the difference in Bach's music, making it so rich, so complex. Right? You come back to being a little more choppy, less legato. You on, off, and then we have this. Again, I like to use the pedal there, being very attentive. The more you listen when playing with the pedal, the more you're going to do it right. It's not so much about lift like this, put it down like that. It's very difficult to explain and calculate exactly precisely what you're going to do with the pedal. Sometimes it's more something that in a way, the pedal is always being improvised, right? You're improvising by virtue of listening with your ear, hearing when do you want more, when do you want less. So, here as well, shape through that D sharp. Yeah, I like. And sometimes I will even take the liberty of holding a few notes to do a finger pedal in his music, just because. Why not? Yeah? But not all the time. Sometimes it's nice to do exactly the way he wrote it, okay? So we'll look at a few of that examples. Now the alto line. What a beautiful circle of fifths. Yeah, circle of fifths. It's just always Yeah, it's always the part of the piece where people are going to say, "Ah, it's really beautiful." So notice I like to bring out the alto line a little bit so we can really savor those suspensions. If the alto line is weak, we end up with this. Not quite as rich as. And here he doesn't hold that. So we don't have that suspension. We get to a pure C sharp major. And the E becomes the 7th in the F sharp major chord, the E sharp. So, yeah, do it like this. Bring out more alto here. And now the top. So we can get that major 7th. And you know when you have these circle of fifths, usually it's kind of dying down, right? So we have this. A little less. But we want this E sharp. So we have, you know, I just fancy that way today, you know, that articulation, but it could be all smooth legato. You could do that. Now, again, personal, giving you my personal ideas. I like to bring out the bass line here. Like that, exactly like that. Shape it down to the B sharp. So that then here, yum, pum, pum, yum, yum. So we have that come out. So all of that in the bass line. And then this, C sharp, of course, don't do this. Remember what we said. No matter what, those eighth notes, hold them their full length. So we're going to have... we can follow that line. Let me do that better. All right, G sharp becoming the 9th here. Now, this time, we have our subject in quarter notes. Did you hear that? Nice suspension here. And then we got to hold the G sharp. So this G sharp becomes the 9th. So beautiful. Again, we have that quarter notes in the bass. Now again, personal, I like to come down, make it quiet and tense. You know, I say it's personal, but I highly recommend you follow my advice playing this piece. Sorry. It's subdued, but it's very intense. So you're not playing in, expressing it with the sound. Otherwise, it's just going to be loud all the time. We want a crescendo at the end of this, and the end of this fugue is going to be loud. So we need a moment that's really intense, but the sound is subdued. Maybe just this G, because it's so long. this is one of those fugues, yeah, you can finish in a quieter way, right? Isn't that like so sweet? Right? So we don't need this kind of thing, you know. Isn't that less interesting than what we did before? Right? Okay, you know, and then again, at this scale, there's different ways of looking at this. You know, maybe this is like one scale, but since it is split into two voices, bring it out. Sorry. So a little more of this F sharp and less of these notes. So we can hear, instead of hearing, we hear major seventh here. Now we should probably slow down. I just feel a little crazy today. I like we could play through that part without slowing down at all when we get from that final dominant to the tonic. But usually it only makes sense to take a little bit of time there. So again, I just find it, I like experimenting with these things, and for the moment I find that really satisfying to just go right through it. It's more intense. So when you get here, sustain a little bit, and then a little less. If we want to be really exact again, let's be really exact with what he wrote. We have an F sharp here we're supposed to hold. Still holding that F sharp, which ends here. So when you get here, there should only be these three notes. The bass, that's the tonic, the major seventh, and the ninth. It's like a cluster. It's amazing, but spaced apart. Now if you're holding on to the F sharp, it mixes it up a little bit. We probably don't hear it very much, but those three naked notes, that's the best. That's it. And actually, I'm supposed to hold that C sharp at the bottom. I didn't see that. Very cool. And here, I like to reach that A sharp. Since the third is on top, we're bound to hear it well enough. On my piano, with the way I play it, often what I find missing or I want to hear more is the fifth, right? So let's wrap this up. Reach the A here. Yeah. So that's a good one, guys. That's really, really amazing. Money, nothing is free in life, even for such a master as Bach. Yeah, he was paid. He was paid. Yeah, in a way, Bach was just doing his job, but he did one heck of a job. You know, he was good at it, and he was very productive, very focused. You know, I often wonder in this day and age. You know, it seems like a huge challenge for us to be really focused because times have changed. We have lots going on. We have so many distractions at our fingertips. And I often think about, very often, what it was like for those guys who wrote this music. Think about the composers a lot, and yeah, you know what it was like to live back then when they did. I would assume, not that it's an excuse, but it was a little easier to completely dedicate yourself to something when your access to information is so limited. You're able to focus and expand and produce so much more. That's how I see it. When another revolutionary etude, Gabriel says. A revolutionary etude, yeah, we can look at that. I did a short video on that long ago. I never actually learned that etude, so maybe I should learn it before I play it for you guys. Tom says, I do finger pedaling too. It's great for Bach and Baroque. Finger pedaling is beast style. We need it. Bill asked, what the first piece I played? That was this piece, Bill. It's the Prelude and Fugue in C sharp major, Book 2 by Johann Sebastian Bach. But we were also looking at the coronation anthems by Handel, the opening, which is Zadok the priest, the intro, because there's something made a connection between the prelude and that Zadok the priest. Yeah, exactly. Bach is very centering. Something about these beautiful harmonies that brings calm to the chaos. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's the most satisfying, one of the most satisfying calms that I know is from his music. Haydn as well. You know, I think it has something to do with the motor music. The Baroque and classical, they invented this idea of like machine music. And it's very strict in tempo. And if we don't have that strictness in tempo, we do not have the purity that gives us this calm, peaceful, energizing, recharging feeling you have from listening to this kind of music. Again, guys, listen to the cantatas if you haven't. Now, I'm going to turn some on right when I turn this off here. So, yeah. Okay. Hi, Jinwoo Park. So that's it for today, guys. Do we bring that dog in? She's asking to come inside. Okay, I'm just going to open the door so you can see her, because she might be a little crazy, and that's always fun. So give me 1 second. Baby girl. Yeah. What you doing? Here she is. There we go. Just gonna look out the window. Snooky doggy. Very excited when she comes inside. After being out there in the cold and snowy. Okay, guys, so that wraps it up for today. There we go. We have a little show going on here. Thanks for tuning in. And I'll see you in the next one. I have some videos on Rock 3 coming up. Already recorded a little bit, so stay tuned for that. See you in the next video. Happy practicing. Peace over and out.